welcome to today's episode of Newsful, where we dive into stories that truly matter. Today we are focusing on Vinesh Phogat, our world champion. While we get distracted by trivial stories, we must not lose sight of the larger injustices at play. Medal or no medal, Vinesh Phogat went through an ordeal she couldn't even talk about. Despite her Herculean effort, India did not win a single gold medal. Vinesh came close, but she wasn't defeated by an opponent. She was disqualified for exceeding the weight limit by just 100 grams. However, those 100 grams were not the real reason she lost her medal. The real reasons were politics and systematic non-cooperation within her own country, along with a federation that does not care about the wrestlers. Issues that no one is talking about but need to be addressed. If we don't stand up for our players, who will? Sarah Hildebrand, who won the gold medal in the 50 kg category in the Paris Olympics, would have faced Vinesh if she had not been disqualified. Sarah had been competing in the 55 kg category a few years ago and managed her weight cut for the Paris Olympics. Media asked her how. This is how she did it. Her weight cut process began in 2022. She said, "I knew it was going to be uncomfortable for a year, but it will make my job easier in 2024. Do you know how much time Vinesh Phogat had to cut her weight to 50 kg? Just 2 months. Yes, just 2 months. And we expected her to win gold against athletes who had been preparing for 2 years. Vinesh suffered a severe knee injury in August 2023 during her protest, and it took her 6 months to recover from that surgery. By February 2024, she was back in training and won the 55 kg event at the National Wrestling Championship. Since there was no 55 kg category in the Paris Olympics, Vinesh's aim was to go for the 53 kg category, which was also her usual category. But she had no clarity if she would be given a chance to go to the Paris Olympics in the 53 kg category. Why? We will come to it in a bit. She asked the federation to give her in writing if she would be sent to the Paris Olympics in the 53 kg category. When she did not get any confirmation and she had to participate in the Olympics, which you can only do if you secure a quota for the country by winning an Olympic event before the Olympics. She participated in the Asian Wrestling Olympic qualifiers in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan in April 2024 to secure that quota. She won 3 bouts back-to-back in the 50 kg category because she had no other option. So Vinesh Phogat, who has been competing and winning medals in the 53 kg category since 2019, whose natural weight is 57 kg, was forced to cut her weight to 50 kg. She managed to achieve this in just about 2 months and even won. But the body needs time to adjust to a new weight. Since this weight was new to her body, there was no guarantee that she would be able to keep it that low. And this is exactly what happened on August 7 in Paris. Despite being a trained Olympian who has undergone weight cut processes throughout her career, her body, for lack of a better word, failed her that day. No controversy, nobody's fault. But after all this, a simple question comes to mind. Why was Vinesh Phogat not allowed to participate in the 53 kg category in the first place? Under what circumstances did she choose or was forced to choose the 50 kg category, which was more challenging for her, considering she naturally weighs around 57 kg? In January 2023, Vinesh, along with Bajrang Punia, Sakshi Malik and others, protested at Delhi's Jantar Mantar against Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, the then Wrestling Federation of India chief and a Bharatiya Janata Party MP, accusing him of sexual harassment and intimidation. They were fed up with the government's inaction and took to the streets of the national capital to fight for their dignity and the future of wrestling in India. Even while protesting, they continued training daily on the streets. Despite being champions, they were treated like criminals, dragged through the streets, denied basic human dignity, and forced to sleep on the pavement, even in the rain. Vinesh Phogat, who has brought gold to India, was treated as if she were nothing.
आज जिन खिलाड़ियों ने मेरे ऊपर आरोप लगाए थे, आज आप जाकर के हरियाणा में देखो कि उनकी कितनी इज्जत है। साहब उनको कोई बुलाता नहीं है। फॉलोअर्स घट गए। जाते थे तो 5 लाख की विदाई होती थी उनकी। आज किसी कार्यक्रम में बुलाए नहीं जाते।
इज्जत तो हमारी छोड़ी नहीं इन्होंने, इज्जत तो कोई नहीं छोड़ रहा। मतलब कोई पुरुष है, इसका मतलब क्या उसको अधिकार दे दिया क्या उस देश ने? हर पुरुष को अधिकार है क्या गाली देने का या लड़कियों के साथ बदतमीजी करने का?
While all this was happening, Brij Bhushan stepped down and a close aide, in fact his fanboy Sanjay Singh, won the WFI elections and celebrated his victory at Brij Bhushan's house.
कि ऐसे आदमी के ऊपर आरोप लगाया गया था जो चरित्र के मामले में उससे उत्तम चरित्र किसी का है ही नहीं, और यह जीत असत्य पे सत्य की जीत हुई।
He also alleged that Vinesh and other wrestlers were lying about the sexual harassment allegations against Brij Bhushan. During this time, Vinesh suffered a knee injury that required surgery. In her absence, India found a new 53 kg star, Antim Pangal, who secured an Olympic quota by winning a bronze medal at the World Championship. Now, soon after the elections, the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, suspended the newly elected WFI Governing Council headed by Sanjay Singh. Reason? Because of violations of the National Sports Code. The United World Wrestling also suspended the WFI. Reason? For not holding free and fair elections. In the absence of the WFI, the Indian Olympic Association appointed an ad hoc panel to manage the WFI's affairs. In February 2024, just before the Olympics, the global body, the UWW, lifted the suspension after the WFI agreed to specific conditions, including non-discrimination against the protesting wrestlers. Now, after the suspension was lifted, the IOA then gave power back to the Sanjay Singh-led WFI. By this time, Vinesh Phogat was waiting to challenge Antim Pangal in the 53 kg Olympic trials, as promised by the ad hoc committee. Also, it is what the rules say, that it does not matter who secures a quota to go to the Olympics. It will be decided on the basis of a wrestle-off who will get to go to the Olympics, like it happens in all other top countries across the world. But in May 2024, the WFI chief, led by Brij Bhushan's close aide Sanjay Singh, declared that no wrestle-off would take place and that quota winners would go to the Olympics directly. This meant Vinesh could not compete in the 53 kg category and had to accept the 50 kg category. The WFI claimed this decision was to prevent injuries due to sudden weight cuts and ensure top performance. But this concern was not shown to Vinesh, who had just 2 months to cut weight after her surgery and protests. So a two-time Olympic medalist was not given chance to prove her
और
merit
विनेश, ये तो मेरे ही परिवार की है।
to compete in her preferred category and wasn't even given enough time to cut weight, which could have proven fatal for her. Yet, she delivered a historic performance. But the 100 grams disaster was inevitable for a player who deserved better support and understanding from her own country. And if this wasn't enough, while Vinesh was going through extreme measures to compete, cutting her hair, using her finger to induce vomiting to remove any remaining fluid or food in the body, and risking her health, back home, our sports minister was discussing
इनको पेरिस ओलंपिक चक्र के लिए कुल 70,45,775 की वित्तीय सहायता दी गई है।
The WFI chief and Brij Bhushan's close aide, Sanjay Singh, even said in Paris that wrestlers' protest against sexual harassment compromised India's medal chances at the Olympics. While Vinesh Phogat was hospitalized, hundreds of accounts and people were criticizing her, blaming her, and even celebrating her disqualification. The same crowd that lectures others on patriotism was quick to blame her. And the Indian Olympics Association threw Vinesh Phogat under the bus, claiming weight management was the player's responsibility. They did not take any responsibility for her situation or even file a petition to help her until pro bono lawyers in Paris stepped in. Vinesh Phogat could have died to get that medal for the country. And this is how we treat her? And to our sports minister, if you want to discuss money spent on our world champions, let's also talk about the other cases where taxpayer money was rather misused, like the 38 crores of taxpayer money spent in just 6 months to promote Modi-centric ads. Perhaps in our next video. For now, we are joined by one of the best sports journalists in the industry, Jonathan Selvaraj from Sportstar, live from Paris. Thank you, Jonathan, for joining us and speaking with The Wire. Now, you have been covering sports for the last more than 10 years, and you know the in and out of the Vinesh Phogat story. People back home have made a huge fuss about the 100 grams. So, if you could explain to our viewers, what were the 100 grams even important, and is that the story actually?
So the 100 grams are important in the sense that that's where the story starts. That kyunki she was like every wrestler competes in certain weight categories. So until 50 kilos, until 53 kilos, until 57 kilos, and so on in women's wrestling. So there is an advantage. I mean, there is an advantage if if you are like if you're heavier than the weight limit, there's an advantage to you as a wrestler. So the moment Vinesh was over the weight limit for her weight category, she was disqualified. So that's one side of it. No one's arguing the fact that whether she was over the weight limit or not. There was a definite advantage to it, which is why it happened in the same way that just because someone is like 5,000th of a second faster in the 100 meters is enough to give you a gold medal. It's as simple as that. These fractions seem very small, but they're very significant. They're very significant in athletics and all sport. But the point of the story isn't that. The point of the story is, why is Vinesh Phogat wrestling in 50 kilos to begin with? Vinesh Phogat hasn't wrestled in 50 kilos since 2019. She has started wrestling in 50 kilos specifically for this Olympic Games. Over the last 4 years, she was competing in 53 kilos. And, where she has won 2 World Championship bronze medals in that weight category. 2 bronze in the World Championships means like you're among the best in the world. So the reason Vinesh has to do 50 kilos is because she wants to go to the Olympics. Now, normally, like in 2022, the Wrestling Federation of India had put out a document jahan pe they said that if whoever wins an Olympic quota for India there will be selection trials to determine who that quota goes to, because in wrestling the Olympic quota doesn't go to the individual athlete, it goes to the country. So the country can decide ki kisko dena hai hame. Agar, like most countries in the world, after a quota is won, they will have like selection trials, and the winner of the selection trials will go to the Olympics.
It's called off.
It's called a wrestle off. It's called a wrestle off. India mein we use trials interchangeably because we also have selection trials for other tournaments. Like Commonwealth Games ke liye you will have trials, or Asian Championships ke liye you will have trials. You have all sorts. You always have trials in India to select teams. The only exception to this used to be the Olympics, where जिसका भी quota आता था वो ही जाता था. Like this used to be the case until about 2016. 2016 में there was a major controversy because Sushil Kumar, who was a 2-time Olympic medalist, hadn't won the quota. The quota was won by someone called Narsingh Yadav. So Narsingh Yadav won a bronze in the World Championships, got a quota. And then there was a big problem because Sushil was a very big wrestler and Narsingh was adamant that I'm not giving back my quota. And there was a huge hangama ho gaya tha, and ultimately at the end of it, I think the federation realized that we need to have a system where it will, there's a chance for other guys to, to claim the quota. And by the way, the concept of a selection trials for, to gain the quota, to get the ultimate, to decide who ultimately goes to the Olympics is not specific to wrestling. Like shooting mein, we had selection trials. So we had multiple people who won the quota for India who didn't go to the Olympics. So that is very normal. That has happened. And it's a good policy because it ensures that whoever is in good form will go into that particular weight and go to the Olympics. In 2022, the Wrestling Federation of India decided that we are going to have selection trials. There's a paper, it's available online. It's there in writing. They have clearly written that we will have selection trials to determine who goes to the Olympics after a quota is won. And the only concession they made was that there will be a selection trials between a group of wrestlers. The winner of that selection trials will compete against the person who won the quota. To give an advantage ki jisne quota liya thoda to advantage ho unke liye. So they had that policy. Then of course we know in 2023 like the wrestlers protest happened and the Wrestling Federation was suspended by the government and an ad hoc committee was running the sport. The ad hoc committee was running the sport until about December when we had elections again for the federation, and a new federation was elected. New federation was suspended almost immediately within 3 days. and ad hoc committee started running the sport. By this time, the Olympics are around the corner. Also, by this time, Antim Panghal has won a quota for India in women's 53 kilo category by winning bronze in the Olympics. Not a small achievement; it's a significant achievement. But again, the quota belongs to the country; it doesn't belong to the athlete. Next year, when the ad hoc committee decides that there are also, apart from the World Championships, there are many other competitions on which you can get an Olympic quota. One of them is the Asian Olympic qualifiers. The Asian Olympic qualifiers, the like I said, you have trials to decide which team, how the Indian team is selected to go for all these small tournaments. So the ad hoc committee decided to have trials for the Asian Olympic qualifiers. But since there was already
like the rules say.
Not the rules, that's how the norm was. The norm was always been to have selection trials for any tournament. It's always been, with the exception of the Olympics. That was new and only started in 22. So in 2024, before the Asian qualifiers, they had selection trials. They had this the weird case where one quota had already been won, which was in women's 53 kilos. Now, the reason why Vinesh wasn't able to go for the World Championships, or wasn't able to attempt to go for the World Championships, was because she had a major surgery at that time. Like, she had an ACL surgery, which is a surgery for a ligament in your knee, and that takes about 6 months of recovery. So, unfortunately for her, her surgery and recovery coincided with the time that someone else won the quota for India in the 53 kilo weight category, where she had been competing for the last 4 years, where she also had 2 bronze medals at the World Championships. This was a weight category which she had owned. She owned it. No one was, koi uske barabar ka nahi tha us weight category mein. Like, Antim Panghal had wrestled Vinesh twice, had lost twice to her in other selection trials to select the teams. Like Commonwealth ke selection trials mein, she had already lost to her. I think she lost 7-0 if I'm not mistaken. So it's not that Vinesh and Antim had never had trials and Antim has beaten Vinesh. Antim has never beaten Vinesh in any competition. So ultimately, when the selection trials for the Asian Olympic qualifiers were happening, they also had, according to the the rules, which is that whoever wins the quota will have a wrestle off with someone else. They also had a trial to determine who will be part of that wrestle off. So you had 50 kilos mein, you had normal selection trials to decide who will go to Asian Olympic qualifiers, and in 53 kilos you also had like a sort of trial to determine who will be these 4 girls who will baad mein compete with Antim Panghal to decide who goes in her weight category. So in Vinesh's case, like, she's caught in a bad situation because she wants to go to the Olympics, and technically agar rules dekhen to she has a good chance to go in 53 kilos. She has to make the semi-finals of 53 kilos and then be a part of a wrestle off with Antim. But she also knows that ये ad hoc committee है, एक दिन चलेगी, अगले दिन हट जाएगी, माने फेडरेशन वापस आएगी. फेडरेशन को कोई लव नहीं है विनेश के लिए कि we'll make your life easier. They have not had trials before, they will not have trials again. There's no guarantee that they'll have trials.
But isn't that the norm, that trials have to happen?
They had to happen, but they have never happened because this would be the first Olympics where they should have happened. So
okay.
The trials were for the Olympics. So the rules had been laid out, but they had never actually taken place. They had never actually happened. So in Vinesh's case, she didn't honestly believe that they are going to actually have trials. And as events would prove, that she was absolutely right. She was absolutely right in not trusting that there would be any trials. So she said, I will take part in 2 weight categories. I will take part in 50 kilos so that if I win 50 kilos, I will go to the Olympic qualifiers. And I will also take part in 53 kilos. So if I, reach the top 4 over there, I will be part of a wrestle off with Antim Panghal at a later date. And incidentally, ad hoc committee had put the future competition on June 5th. June 5th ko the final selection trials will take place, jahan pe we'll decide who actually goes to the Olympics. So Vinesh basically hedged her bets 2 ways. Now there's multiple ways of looking at it. One is that, are you allowed to compete in 2 weight categories at the same time? Of course you're not. But the point is, these rules are not written in a vacuum. They're written in a situation where you expect that previous rules will also be followed. If previous rules are not going to be followed, there's no sense in being the only honest person in a room full of dishonest people. I mean, you are not going to gain anything out of it. So you say that, okay, she said, I want you to give it in writing to me that you will have that wrestle off in 53 kilos. Now, obviously, ad hoc committee will say, हम तो नहीं दे सकते, हम कैसे दे सकते हैं? Because they also know कि आज हम हैं, कल कोई और हो जाएगा. So they didn't give it to her. So Vinesh put her foot down. She said that I want to wrestle in 2 weight categories. So she wrestled in 2 weight categories. In the 50 kilo category, she won the competition, which now means that India has quota in both 50 kilos and in 53 kilos. So what is the next step? The next step is that there should be trials to decide who goes in each category. Vinesh is 100% clear that she doesn't want this 50 kilo category quota. She wants to compete in 53 kilos. But Federation has now, by the way, taken over again. Ad hoc committee has been dissolved, just as Vinesh predicted कि आप एक दिन हैं यहाँ पे, कल नहीं होंगे आप, which is exactly what happened. Federation takes over. Federation in going against their own document, which is still available online on their own website. It goes against that and says कि 4 out of the 6 Olympic quota winners have said कि they don't want any more trials. So we are not going to conduct any more trials. Which means that if Vinesh has to go to the Olympics, she has to go in either 50 kilos or she has to not go at all. So this is why we say that Vinesh had no option but to go in 50 kilos, because the rules which were laid down by WFI, which are there on their website, and hopefully they should not take it down anytime soon, were violated. Were
Violated by them.
By themselves.
By the
It was their rules. Now the thing is, no wrestler want trials. Which wrestler will want to give another set of trials? They've already qualified for the Olympics. कौन सा wrestler चाहेगा कि मैं एक और set of trials दूं? Like, absolutely, from a absolutely selfish perspective, why will any wrestler want to give another set of trials? The only wrestler who wanted a trial was Vinesh. It makes complete sense because every other wrestler was happy. हाँ, मैं अपनी weight category में सही हूँ. The only person who wasn't satisfied was Vinesh. So the Wrestling Federation of India, that's the point of a wrestling federation. तुम्हारी job है. So your job is as the head of, I mean, the guys who are running the sport, is not to listen to every athlete who comes to you with a sad story कि मैं से weight cut नहीं होगा. Everyone struggles with the weight cut. That's why no one wants to do it. That's why everyone says we don't want trials. The job of a federation is कि you have made rules, you stick with them. You have made rules for some purpose. कुछ सोच के किया आपने. So stick with those rules. But I mean,
Right.
they chose not to do it. I mean, that's in their infinite wisdom, they decided not to do it. So yeah, I mean, like if you think about it, it's pretty clear cut. As in, you had rules, you had them for a reason, and in the end, you chose not to follow those rules. I mean, it's as straightforward as it gets.
So I think with that, let's leave it to our viewers to decide. Vinesh Phogat's case is not just about a missed medal. It's about systematic non-cooperation and hidden exploitation, which more often than not, players can't even talk about. We need to understand the truth behind her struggle and the struggle of all those who raise their voices against wrong and support their voices against the forces that try to silence all of them, and especially women who stand up against the powerful. Vinesh Phogat lost the battle in Paris, but the war she's fighting is far from over. Let's ensure that no other woman has to risk her career and life for speaking out against injustice. Thank you for watching Newsful.